Thank you. Holly Cheeseman, 16 Mitchell Drive, Niantic. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you.
And I won't take too long. I just thought I'd bring you up to date on what was going on in Hartford. You will have seen that both the House and the Senate voted to approve the concessions package and the attendant 34 separate union contracts. We still have no budget, as you will know. I hear the governor announced today that if there is no budget, he will start doling out ECS funding to the most needy towns, which I suspect means municipalities like East Lyme and Salem will not do very well. I have had no update as to when we might go in. I was in Hartford every day the last week of June, hoping to be called in on a budget. We were asked to keep 2 or 3 days in July open, including the 31st, to vote on a budget, and obviously that didn't happen. As soon as I know anything more, I will let you know. And I think it's day by day. On the CGA website, and I think I brought some of these to Town Hall, I had some information about important acts that were passed. One that actually was able to overcome one of the governor's vetoes was one with regard to affordable housing, the 830G statute, and this Public Act 17170 makes it easier for municipalities to qualify for a moratorium if they show they've made efforts toward reaching that 10% affordable housing. For some towns, it will extend the moratorium. It increases the types of structures that qualify as affordable to include mobile homes and manufactured homes. And towns now have to adopt an affordable housing plan every 5 years and show how they're attempting to achieve that goal. But there was bipartisan consensus that in many cases towns are making good faith efforts to reach that 10%, and some developers rather unscrupulously are using that affordable housing standard as a way to supersede and override local zoning regulations, as we know only too well in this town. So we needed 101 votes in the House. As for 2/3, we had exactly 101 votes. And the governor's veto was overridden. That's about it. As I say, as soon as I have more to report on the budget, I will let you know. And it's anybody's guess. One other item I would like to bring to your attention, changing hats as president of the East Lyme Library Board. The library is undertaking a strategic planning process and is looking for town residents to participate in a series of workshops. I understand there may be a prize of a Kindle or something like that if you agree to appear in a workshop. The details are on the library website. We're encouraging people to participate. Who better than the residents of the town to help the library plan for the next 5, 10, 20 years. So we would welcome your input, and I encourage anybody who's interested to contact the library. And that's about all I have to say. Oh, one more thing, changing hats again. Shameless plug for the Children's Museum. Our 25th anniversary gala is September 15th, and anyone who's interested in attending or being a sponsor or just needs more information can contact the Children's Museum, and we would be happy to help you and look forward to celebrating 25 years of a wonderful institution that only exists because of the dedication of the citizens of East Lyme. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Cheeseman, and thank you for the update on the Children's Museum and everything else.
Through the chair, could you ask Representative Cheeseman if that information is online on the website?
For the museum.
Gala.
For the gala, is that online as well? Thank you. Thank you, Holly, and thank you, Roseanne. Any other delegations? Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen of July 5th, 2017.
I'd like to make a change.
We have to have a motion first.
Okay.
You want
Yep. Move to approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes of July 5th, 2017 as submitted.
Second.
to? Okay, moved and seconded. Corrections?
On page, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Mark, and then Paul.
On page 3, it says Mark Solano reported the town building committee met, and out of the 6, then in parentheses it says 3, it should say 6
Okay.
bids. And I'm not trying to change minutes, but it was actually 4 that they interviewed. I reported 3.
Okay. Brooke, you have that?
Three, not six, and what was the second part though? Is it four?
Well, it says 6, and then it puts in parentheses 3. I think it means it's 3.
But that should be 4.
There was a total of 6, and there was 4 that companies to interview.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else, Mark?
No.
Okay, Paul?
Paragraph 6B, first line, says out of town, our town. Should be corrected to our town.
Mhm.
Our town. Okay. Anything else, Paul?
No, sir.
Any other comments or corrections? Do the mover and the secretary agree to the corrections? Okay. Okay. All those in favor of the approving the minutes as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Carried unanimously. Okay, the approval of the minutes of the special meeting of the Board of Selectmen for July 25th, 2017.
Move to approve the Board of Selectmen special meeting minutes of July 25th, 2017 as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded. Any comments or corrections? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstention.
1 abstention. Motion carries. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent calendar for the meeting of August 2nd, 2017 in the amount of $2,295.87.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carried unanimously. We have no old business. Moving on to new business, the appointment of Attorney Willets to examine the indices of the land records for the calendar year. I think, Roseanne, you can attest that he has done this for a couple of years. And the nice thing is it's for a sum of $2,000, and I don't think he's increased that amount in all the years I can remember. So he does perform a service to the town. He's also a town resident, and does stellar work. He's done this for this. He's also been a very great member of the Parks and Rec in the past. So, is there a motion to appoint Mr. Willets to this position?
Move to appoint Attorney William Willets Jr. to examine the indices of the land records for calendar year 2017.
Second, with a thank you for his service to the town for probably 30 years.
Agreed.
And I just need to add in accordance with the CGS section 714 for the sum of $2,000. Sorry.
Did you get the end of that, Brooke? Okay.
That is sec-
Okay.
Yeah.
That is seconded.
Yep.
Okay, and that's seconded. Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously. The next one is to review and authorize the first selectman to enter into agreement with Department of Corrections to use certain equipment located at York Correctional Institution. Where we normally have been using this, this is just formalizing what we have been doing. Celebrating Lyme Day, we use some of their equipment, their gaiters and so forth like that for transportation. The same thing possibly at the light parade. So we've done this in the past. Under funding on section 5 on the document, it says the town will reimburse DOTs for any costs associated with equipment, including staff overtime. This is never, to my knowledge, resulted in any overtime or any cost. We get the equipment well in advance of the event we're using it for, and it's always returned in very good condition. And same thing, the miscellaneous about insurance. I believe that's on the last page or under title.
Paragraph DX.
Yeah, it should be not, DX. That is already in effect, so that, it's not something new we have to do. That is already in existence. So, if we like, we can get a motion, then discuss it further, if anyone would like to.
Resolve that Mark C. Nickerson, first selectman of the town of East Lyme, be and hereby is authorized to execute on behalf of the town of East Lyme an agreement with the Connecticut Department of Corrections for the use of certain equipment located at York Correctional Institution, and is authorized to execute any and all documents necessary for consummate the transaction above contemplated.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Mrs. Hardy. Any comments or questions?
Yes, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
You had mentioned funding under Section 5, and I wasn't aware that we were borrowing equipment from them, so I guess now that I think about it, I do remember seeing some state vehicles, but just didn't connect it with prison. So under the funding, we borrow the equipment and our town employees operate the equipment. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, and so no state employees are involved in that.
No, not in the operation on the day here. They may be involved in transporting it from the correctional facility up here, but not in the use of it on the date that we're utilizing it for our events.
Okay, and then you'd also mentioned DX, the insurance. And in the in the first paragraph under that section, the next to the last sentence, or it says, limit in all accidents during the lease term shall be a minimum of $2 million. Does that, it says minimum, not maximum, so I'm unclear on the language on this as to what it really says.
I know this has been reviewed by town council, and he was comfortable with it. And I was at the meeting the other day when Mr. Nickerson met with us prior to the meeting tonight. And he said there had to be a minimum amount, but we did not even talk about the $2 million, but he did mention the minimum amount. So I don't have a good answer for you on that one right now.
Well, if you read it one way, it's that if there's any accident with the equipment involving damage to the equipment or anything, it says limit in all accidents during the lease term shall be a minimum of $2 million. So I would be comfortable if it said a maximum of $2 million, but
I don't think we could say a maximum of $2 million, because that may not be the case, because depending upon what a jury or a lawsuit might be involved, it could exceed that, because we do see a lot of awards in excess of $2 million now.
well, does this mean that any accident that occurs then, the whatever you call the person who's bringing the case automatically gets a minimum of $2 million?
Oh, I think, Dan, you could probably answer that one.
Well, what they're talking, they're discussing the aggregate limit in the insurance policy. So it'd be $1 million single, for a single claim, or a single minimum amount of $1 million. And then the aggregate amount can't be less than $2 million. So, and of course, the aggregate could be, you could buy an insurance policy that has an aggregate of $5 million or $10 million. But in order to be in compliance with this contract, the aggregate can't be less than $2 million. So you might envision 2 single $1 million claims that would be handled by a policy that has a minimum of $2 million in the aggregate.
And as it says there, according to this, I would think in the first part, the maximum any one person could get would be $1 million.
It's
But
a
if-
single limit.
But if you had something catastrophic where 3 or 4 people would be hurt, you would definitely have to have additional coverage.
I don't believe it says someone can only get a minute.
No, it does not at all.
But the
It just
coverage
says
is for-
the coverage is up to.
Required coverage is a $1
Oh,
million
no,
minimum.
no, I mean,
The coverage.
For a single minimum amount is 1 million, and the aggregate can't be less than 2 million. So we could buy a policy that has an aggregate of $2 or $3 or $4 million, which would give added protection. But to satisfy the condition of this contract, it has to be at a minimum $2 million. Does that help? Does that clear it up?
Yes,
Okay.
I understand it. So it doesn't mean that an individual,
is guaranteed $2 million
Right.
for breaking his finger? No. No.
okay.
Thank you, Counselor.
And in that
Glad to
same,
help.
section, if we come down to the third paragraph that begins with prior, and then drop down 5 lines, 4 lines, it says Vera's insurer. And I don't know what that refers to, because I didn't see that referenced anyplace else in the document.
Anna, would you have any idea what that would possibly refer to? Could that be bearers and it just got?
I'm thinking it might be a typo.
Yeah, I am thinking too. I wouldn't think the clarification of that word would be a difficult thing to resolve, though, if we approved it. And we can make sure that, we could make it the approval of this pending the clarification of that sentence, if that would be okay.
Could you read the motion again?
Be it resolved that Mark C. Nickerson, First Selectman of the Town of East Lyme, be and hereby is authorized to execute on behalf of the Town of East Lyme an agreement with the Connecticut Department of Correction for the use of certain equipment located at York Correctional Institution, and is authorized to execute any and all documents necessary to consummate the transaction above contemplated.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so when this goes into the minutes,
We can just make sure that Mark clarifies that sentence with the DOC before he signs it.
and the attachment A, the support documentation, that will be included with that.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm all set.
Okay, if there's no further questions?
Will the motion authorize Mr. Nickerson to modify the insurance policy to make sure that the state of Connecticut gets added as an additional insured?
Yes. I mean, it gives him the authority to do that, the motion, to do any and all things, so.
So not just to sign the lease, but to execute actions required.
Yes, as the motion says, he's able to, if there's something in there that he felt that we brought to his attention that needs to be altered, he can do that before executing the contract. And if they won't do it, then he'd have to bring it back to us.
Yeah. The only other comment I had is, it's the requirements to, and I don't know how often we have in the past or will in the future, enter the correctional facility to, pick up the equipment we're borrowing. But
We don't, they bring it to us.
Right, so, all these requirements here to enter the thing, if that were to change, we need to make sure whichever town employee or employees are going, have a clear understanding of the requirements to enter the facility. There's notification requirements in there, and so on and so forth. So if that were to change sometime, town employees are gonna be required to comply with this attachment to the lease.
Mhm.
That's why I was asking about it.
Mhm. My guess, and here, it's not my guess, I know that we've been doing this forever with them, but there's been a change at the prison, at the correctional facility, and they wanted us to actually formally sign a document to basically, as I said, formalize what we've been doing for several years.
Well, it is a bit vague also in that, for use of certain equipment.
Right.
So, for reading this as a first timer, does this mean, we're gonna get sandbags in case of in case of a flood, or?
Well, I think to list all the possible items we'd have would, I don't know what they have, I'm sure it would not have anything to do with, some of what they do to maintain order there. It would strictly, right now, to my knowledge, it's just equipment such as the vehicles that we use, the gators and so forth that we use for our events in town. Joe, do you know of anything else that we get, or any of your people that actually go into the facility? Okay. Okay.
That's coordinated by our emergency
Okay.
All right. I'm set, thank
Okay.
you.
Any other comments?
I would just, I think I know what the answer is on Vera's.
Mm-hmm.
She used to work in that no. Vera is, remember Vera? No. I think it was a typo. I think they meant bearers.
I
Bearers
agree.
B-E-A-R-E-R-S.
But I think I'm sure
Just
Mark,
for clarification.
just a quick phone call, Mark can clarify that.
Yeah, I'm sure he can.
But thank you.
Yep.
So, all right, thank you for your comments. We'll move the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? It carries unanimously. Thank you for your input. Moving on, we have a need to do some boiler repair at the community center. This is not something we didn't realize. Joe, if you'd like to get up and speak to it?
Through the budget process over the last number of years, there's actually an amount that we put aside for HVAC that you're aware of. It's been $37,000 for a number of years. Last fiscal year, the 37 got dropped to 10. This last year, I put it in 37 again, it dropped to 10. The reason we put that in is for days like this. Now, even though the community center building is 25 years old, there was no indication through the winter, or else this would, the one question of this is why wasn't this brought through the budget process, is there was no indication coming through the winter that there was anything wrong with the boilers at the community center. In April, there's 5 major boilers in there. 3 of them, in April, 3 of them failed. Right, it was just coming out of the heating season, so we asked our HVAC contractor we used to give us a price. The price came in at like $100,000. I'm like, oh, so we knew right away that we had to go through the process of getting multiple bids and so like that. So that's what we did. We got 3 different bids, one from the contractor we use, New England Mechanical, and then one from a company, Dunkley, out of Stonington, and one from Bartol. We got those numbers. We have to move forward with something because right now we only have 2 functioning boilers in that building. If we hit the season, I mean, right now on a 90-degree day, you wouldn't think of it, but we are in August, and end of September, October is coming. So, so that's the story where we're at. We need to fix this. The building is 25 years old, but the way in this proposal here, it's not asking the town for any more money. It's not dipping into anything that we don't have. So we're trying to fund it in 3 manners. One, we did very well last winter, not only from a heating, when we did go to the community center to natural gas, the underground storage tank we pulled out of the ground. The tank had 5,000, 6,000 gallons of fuel in it, and through working with the local vendor, Guy's Oil, they credited us with all that fuel. They took, it was full of fuel when they did the, it was a win-win. We pulled the underground storage tank out of the ground, so we didn't have insurance and all that. And then all the fuel in it, we've got a credit. So half the winter, we weren't paying for fuel because it was in that tank and it got dispersed everywhere else because we didn't need fuel oil anymore because we had natural gas. So that's a big reason why we have $37,000 left over in the building maintenance account from the fiscal year 16-17. And part of that, this motion is to transfer that into 17-18 to help pay for that. That will help pay for half of this. Then the second portion of the funding of this is through that very money that I talked about before. The whole reason why we were putting $37,000 a year is for things, so you put, as I've heard it before, called pockets, a bucket of money, but you're putting that money in there so for the day that it happens, you need it. Well, here we go, we need it. So there was $17,974 in the account as of June 30th. The budget had $10,000, so that's where the $27,000, but that's all money that was funded through the budget. The last is the $13,800. One of the things I put in here, and ironically, right when I found out the boilers had failed, I also got this sheet from within about a week that Eversource had a really good incentive program going on, and I reached out to them 15 times trying to jump on this opportunity because the parameters were it had to be spent in 2017, it had to have a natural gas building, everything hit with us. So I've been in discussions with them. The 13.8, from what I'm understanding, is a floor right now. I'm still working with Eversource of getting money for that. If we get more incentive, it just would be less money that we have to take out of the capital account. But we got to move on this because if we go through this, the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, town meeting, I got to put these. There's a lead time to get the units in. I want to get this stuff installed by September so that come late September, if you get a cold night and they want heat at the senior center or the library, that we actually can heat the building. So. That's what I have here. There's two motions involved. The first one's to approve the carryover of the funds. The second one is to approve the funding, the appropriation of the amount to get this thing moving forward, and then it would go to the Board of Selectmen, and because of the threshold, I believe, is what kicks it to a town meeting.
Correct. Okay, let's start by getting at least a motion out. Mark?
We'll start with move to approve a carryover in the amount of $37,042 in account 0101113400213 heating oil propane from fiscal year 2016-17 to fiscal year 2017-18 in order to purchase replacement heating equipment in the East Lyme Community Center, which is in the best interest of the town of East Lyme, and forward to the Board of Finance for approval. This item will require a town meeting.
Okay, it's moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion on this first motion.
So the first motion is to approve the amount of funding. And I have some questions preceding that before I'm willing to vote on the amount. So first of all, there's a very large difference in money on the three bids. So the second highest bidder is roughly $22,000 higher than the first bidder, first choice, and the third bidder is almost $40,000 higher. And that seems to me to be a very large discrepancy in bidding. And I've gone through the packet that was provided. So I'll start with my questions. So currently, New England Mechanical would be our contractor to service the boilers that are there now. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And New England Mechanical also, or MCOR, handles many of our other accounts in town as well.
They do Board of Ed. Correct.
And do they handle other town buildings as well?
Oh, yeah, they do all our buildings.
Okay,
The preventative maintenance of all the buildings.
all right. So this is a company that we're very familiar with
Correct.
and has done services most of our equipment of this type in town.
Correct.
So it kind of surprised me that they would come in with a bid that was $22,000 higher. So I'm wondering if we did go with New England Mechanical and we're already under contract for the existing boilers that have gone down, would they give us a credit?
I don't believe so.
For ongoing maintenance? In other words, are we going to continue to pay for a contract for that, even though we're...
I don't have anything to negotiate with New England Mechanical about any kind of reduction in a contract. Right now, we're trying to expedite. To answer the question about the disparities, and you are correct, I had the vice president of MCOR in my office today to ask him that very reason, because honestly, nothing against, I know it's a public forum, we want MCOR to be doing this work if they're actually servicing all our stuff.
Exactly.
But they're a commercial industrial contractor. They have higher, I call it overheads, they call it insurances and a lot of other things that factor into their costs. So even though we have a good working relationship with MCOR and we always give them the opportunity, we had a $17,000 air handler that we had to replace in the community center last year. Dunkley did it. We had a $7,000 air handler that we had to do in PD. Dunkley did it. We had to redo the heating system, HVAC system in probate. Bartol did it because that was a smaller system. The reason Bartol's number is so high is that they're residential. They're more of a residential than a commercial contractor, and they did not want to go by the same